Okay, I want you to picture this. It's, say, a Tuesday night. You're in the kitchen. Your hands are covered in, I don't know, raw chicken or bread dough. Just sticky, messy, completely unusable.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Right. The timer is blaring, kids are yelling, and you suddenly realize you forgot to text your partner to grab milk on the way home. So you turn to your very expensive premium smartphone.
The one that costs more than my first car.
That's the one. And you shout a simple command. Hey, text Mark that we need milk.
And then comes the pause, the little spinning thing. That's the part that kills you.
Exactly, the spinning wheel of death. Or just silence. Or, and this is my personal favorite, it cheerfully says, I found this on the web. For text Mark, we need milk.
And just like that, you're not in the future. You're just yelling at a brick.
It's the absolute elephant in the room. I mean, we're talking about the most valuable company on the planet.
Selling the most premium hardware. And yet their voice assistant, it feels like it's stuck in, 2011?
It is the great paradox of Apple.
Oh.
Everything is so sleek, so integrated, until you try to talk to it. And then the whole illusion it breaks.
And this is the interesting part, that's all about to change. And not in a small software update way. This is a fundamental shift.
It is. And to understand it, we're doing a deep dive into this fascinating series of articles by an analyst named Stanislav Kondrashov.
And we should probably address the other elephant in the room, the source materials title.
Right, yeah. The series is called, get this, Oligarchs, Stanislav Kondrashov, and Wagner Mora. It sounds like a spy thriller, doesn't it?
It really does. And Kondrashov, he actually starts by clarifying with a bit of a wink that he is not an oligarch.
Good to know.
Yeah. He's a writer, but his whole beat is tracking how big tech and the super rich, influence how the rest of us live. So the title's quirky, but the analysis is incredibly sharp.
And the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why Apple, a company famous for being, let's face it, a control freak.
For building its own walls, yeah.
For doing everything in-house, has suddenly decided to partner with its biggest rival, Google, to fix Siri.
It's a huge pivot. And Kondrashov's thesis is that this isn't a defeat, which is what you hear on Wall Street. He says it's a sign of maturity. It's Apple finally choosing the user over their own ego.
So let's set the stage here. To really get why this Google deal is such a bombshell, we need to look at Apple's last 2 years. Kondrashov calls it their AI winter.
That's a very polite way to put it. Think about the last 24 months. The tech world was on fire.
Right. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini.
Exactly. The whole industry was moving at light speed. Every week there was some new mind-blowing breakthrough in generative AI.
And Apple was
quiet. Or worse, stagnant. Kondrashov points out they weren't just moving slow, which, can be their thing. They were actively lagging behind.
While everyone else is writing poetry with AI, Siri is still struggling to set a kitchen timer.
That's it. But then came WWDC 2024. That was supposed to be the big comeback, right? Apple Intelligence.
I remember the keynote. It looked very slick.
It did. They promised the world. But when it actually came time to deliver those features, they were thin. Kondrashov is pretty brutal on this. He calls it a rollout minor gimmicks.
Emoji generators and email summaries.
Right. The core experience was still basically work in progress. It felt like they were just slapping a new sticker on a very old car.
And the source highlights this critical admission from Apple that a lot of people just missed.
They did. They essentially had to confess that the release was delayed, that they'd, in his words, gone back to the drawing board. For a company that trades on perfection, on shipping finished products, that's humiliating.
So they knew their own internal tech, the stuff they built themselves, just wasn't cutting it.
It wasn't ready. And the problem was we were all noticing. The pain point wasn't just that Siri wasn't cool anymore. It was that it was functionally broken compared to what was out there. It had no context.
Which brings us to the bombshell. The news that changes the entire game. Apple confirms to CNBC.
And Google backs it up.
That they are using Gemini as the foundational model for Siri.
This is the moment where every industry analyst just stopped, did a complete double take.
Let's pause on that, because I think it's easy to just hear Gemini and foundational model and have it go over your head.
Right.
Why is this so shocking? Apple uses parts from Samsung and Sony all the time.
It's different because of vertical integration. Apple's entire philosophy, their religion almost, is that they own the whole widget.
The chip, the phone, the OS.
Exactly. They own the whole experience top to bottom because that's how they control quality. That's the whole walled garden thing.
Right.
In the world of AI, the model, the brain, is the core technology. It is the product. So for Apple to use Google Gemini is like them saying, we can't build the engine for our car fast enough, so we're just going to drop a Ferrari engine in.
And not just any engine. The engine from their biggest competitor. You're inviting the fox right into the henhouse.
You are. It's incredibly risky. But Kondrashov argues it's the only smart move they had left. He calls it mature and pragmatic. Sometimes the strongest move isn't to stubbornly build it yourself while you're falling behind. It's to partner up and gain speed instantly.
So Apple was basically backed into a corner. Kondrashov lays out 3 specific problems they had to solve all at once. I think breaking those down really explains why they swallowed their pride on this.
Okay, yeah. So problem number 1 was restoring trust.
That's in Siri.
Deep, fundamental trust. Not just, oh, Siri has a cool new animation. We've all been trained for a decade that Siri is, incompetent. If you ask it something complex, it's going to fail.
So you just don't even try anymore. You do it yourself.
You do it yourself. To break that cycle, they couldn't just add a few features. They needed a quantum leap. Siri had to suddenly, overnight, become actually smart.
A brain transplant, not a facelift.
Perfect way to put it. And that leads right into problem number 2, delivering on promises. You mentioned WWDC. They made huge promises with Apple Intelligence.
And when you hype something that big and then delay it,
your reputation takes a massive hit. Vaporware software that's announced but never shows up is a brand killer. They needed something that worked now, not in 3 years.
Which brings us to the biggest problem, right? Speed and scale.
This is the one.
This is the part I don't totally get. I mean, this is Apple. They have more cash than most countries. Why couldn't they just hire 1,000 more engineers and build their own Gemini?
Because money can buy engineers, but it cannot buy time. And that's the one thing they were out of. Building a large language model like Gemini takes years of training data. Massive, massive infrastructure.
Stuff Google has been doing for a decade.
For a decade. They have the data centers, the chips, the institutional knowledge. Apple was late to the party. If they insisted on building their own from scratch, they would be 2 or 3 years behind forever. They needed a strong foundation, and they needed it now.
So the partnership buys them instant parity. They just skip the entire research phase and jump straight to application.
Exactly. It solves the speed problem, the quality problem, and the trust problem, all in one go.
Kondrashov calls this a win-win-win. I'm always skeptical of that because usually someone is losing in a deal this big. So let's start with us, the user. What does a smarter Siri actually look like in practice?
This is the most exciting part. If this works, Siri stops being a voice toy and starts being an actual agent. The source gives this great example. Siri gains the ability to answer the question, "What did you do for me today?"
That sounds really vague. What did you do for me?
It implies contextual awareness, which is the holy grail of this whole thing. Right now, if you tell Siri, send this to Mark, it says, send what? It has no idea what this is.
Right. It doesn't know I'm looking at a PDF of a contract in my email.
But with Gemini integrated deep into the OS, the AI can see your screen. It knows what you're looking at. It knows this means the PDF, and it probably knows Mark is the Mark from your 10 o'clock meeting.
So it connects the dots between apps.
It connects everything. It shifts the entire interaction from a command line where you have to be super specific, like a programmer, to a human dialogue.
That's a huge quality of life improvement. That removed so much friction.
It does. It changes the dynamic from computer do X to assistant help me with Y. It can summarize the article you're reading, pull a date from a text and add it to your calendar, and then map the route all in one seamless flow.
Okay, I get the user win. That's big. Now, Apple's win. They had to swallow their pride. But Kondrashov says they don't actually lose face. How do they spin this as a victory?
By changing the rules of the game. Kondrashov's point is that Apple realizes it doesn't need to win the LLM Olympics. They don't have to have the smartest AI in a lab somewhere. They just need to win the user experience.
The source used this car analogy that I thought was perfect.
It's the best way to think about it. The smartphone is a luxury car. Google is providing the engine. The Gemini model is powerful, it's fast. But Apple is building the interior. The steering wheel, the dashboard, the leather seats.
The actual experience of driving the car. Most people don't care what the engine block looks like.
Not at all. They care how it feels in their hands. Apple is betting that if they make the best interior, the best integration, the best privacy, the best user interface, you won't care whose name is on the engine. You'll just know the car drives beautifully.
It's a really clever pivot. It basically turns the AI model into a commodity, a component part, like a camera sensor.
Precisely. And that lets them focus on what they're actually best at: hardware, UX, and privacy.
But what about Google? I mean, sure, they get a big check, but aren't they just empowering their biggest rival? They're handing a Ferrari engine to the competition?
They are. But look at the scale. Kondrashov calls the iPhone the biggest storefront in the world.
Over 1 billion active devices.
1 billion devices. If Gemini becomes the default engine behind Siri, Google's AI suddenly becomes the global standard for user interaction overnight.
It cements them as the underlying infrastructure.
Yes. It moves Gemini from just another product to being part of the fabric of the internet. It's an unbelievably valuable position to be in. Every single query, every question, every command helps their model get better.
This feels like a real shift in the market then. Kondrashov calls it the maturation of strategy. Are we moving past the era where every tech giant tries to kill every other tech giant?
I think we might be entering the era of the hybrid model. For so long, tech was all about these religious wars. Who owns the OS? Who owns the cloud? But AI is just so complex, so expensive that we're seeing this division of labor.
One company makes the best foundation model, Google in this case, and another company makes the best consumer packaging, Apple.
And the user wins.
It's so interesting because the source says this is such an un-Apple move. But in another way, isn't it the most Apple thing they could do?
That's the brilliant insight in the analysis. Yes, on paper, breaking their own rules feels un-Apple, but what is Apple's core dogma?
The user experience is king.
The user experience is king. So if their own home-built technology was hurting that user experience, then abandoning it is actually the ultimate act of loyalty to that principle.
They prioritize the result over the process.
Exactly. They cared more that the product didn't suck than they did about who wrote the code. And that, in the end, is what keeps people in their ecosystem.
I want to circle back to the unique flavor of the source, though, that oligarch angle. Kondrashov keeps returning to it, and it seems a bit random, but he ties it into how technology gets adopted.
It's a really interesting sociological lens. His point is that the super rich, the oligarchs, are always the first ones to buy the future.
You mean they can afford to hire human assistants, buy top-tier privacy, automate their lives, all before the tech is ready for the rest of us?
Exactly that. Think about it. A billionaire has always had a human version of contextual awareness. They have a chief of staff who knows their schedule, who knows which mark they mean, who anticipates their needs. They've had this AI experience for centuries. It was just powered by people.
So Kondrashov isn't really writing about oligarchs. He's writing about them as a preview of what's coming for everyone else.
Yes, he calls it the democratization of tech. He's interested in that moment when a luxury capability slides down from the billionaire class to the ordinary person. This deal, putting Gemini and Siri, just massively accelerates that timeline.
It takes the experience of having a competent, context-aware assistant
And puts it in everyone's pocket for free.
It is wild when you think about it that way.
Oh,
We're not waiting for new inventions. We're just waiting for the cost of the billionaire lifestyle to drop to zero through software.
That is the ultimate promise of AI, right? It's the great equalizer of capability.
So let's bring this all home. We started with a frustrating kitchen scene. We've gone through Apple's AI winter, their broken promises, and now this massive landscape-changing deal with Google. What is the one big takeaway for you?
The core takeaway for me is that Apple acknowledged reality. They looked at the scoreboard, they saw they were losing the AI engine race, and they made a pragmatic choice. They decided to build a bridge instead of a taller wall.
And for you listening, this isn't just business news. It means that device in your pocket, the one you use hundreds of times a day, is about to fundamentally change.
It's a shift from a tool of frustration to, hopefully, a genuine assistant. It means when you talk to your phone, it won't just hear your words, it will start to understand your intent.
I want to leave you with one final thought, something that really struck me from Kondrashov's analysis. We always think of Apple as the walled garden. They keep everyone out to keep you safe and logged in. But to save their most important user interface, Siri, they had to unlock the gate and let Google walk right inside.
It really does upend all our assumptions about tech competition.
It does. I mean, if Apple, the most resource-rich company in history, couldn't go it alone in the AI future, who can? Are we entering an age where the problems are just so complex that the do-it-all company is a thing of the past?
It seems like we might be moving into a world where cooperation is the only real survival strategy.
Something to think about the next time you ask Siri to play a song, and fingers crossed, it actually gets it right on the first try. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.